Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Bizon submachine gun. And this is an episode that I actually had a lot of fun watching. If you guys watched the stream with this one, I had a tremendous amount of fun with the weapon because the Bizon is an underrated submachine gun that's actually very strong. A lot of people overlook it and they prefer the MP5, which has a faster theoretical time to kill, but the Bizon has a lot going on for it other than theoretical time to kill, which we're going to talk about quite a bit here in today's in-depth episode. But of course, we'll start with damage because that is the most important thing on any weapon. It'll deal 34 damage up close and decrease down to 19 damage at long ranges, which means that it will take between 3 and 6 shots to kill depending on how far away you are from the enemy. The unique damage areas on this weapon are the head and the limbs. The head will deal more damage, 55 up close and 30 at long ranges, meaning you can two-tap to the head like a lot of the submachine guns. And if you're shooting people in the limbs, you're going to be dealing a little bit less damage, typically one less shot to kill at every single range. So try to keep your shots nice and center of mass, and they will be very, very good to you. Interestingly, there is no damage reduction for hitting lower stomach, which is nice. A lot of weapons in this game like to reward these like chest and heart and lung hits, but this one, as long as you're hitting center mass, the damage is all the same, which means there's less precision aiming for me to fool with. Rate of fire is 650 rounds per minute, which is a lot slower than what you want for a submachine gun. That's only 50 RPM higher than that of the Uzi, which is very, very slow. This is one of the slower firing SMGs in Modern Warfare, and that's really its only weakness. That's kind of a rough point. However, because it's a 3-shot kill weapon, which is a little bit rare for submachine guns, the Bizon time to kill is more competitive than you would think, just because of that 3-shot kill. It's right in line, it's like right middle of the pack on time to kill for submachine guns, but I do admit it's not as good as the MP5, which still outclasses it in terms of rate of fire, and maybe in terms of recoil. That's more of a subjective taste kind of thing. But let's talk about ranges on the Bizon as well. The base range for your 3-shot kill is 12 meters. If you put the steel barrel on it, it'll go up to 15. The polygonal barrel will be 13 meters. The shortest barrel has no changes at all. And the maximum range with the monolithic suppressor and the steel barrel is 19 meters, which is not at all a bad 3-shot kill range for submachine guns. Like, not even remotely bad. And this range is slightly better than that of the MP5. So when it comes to shots to kill at long ranges, the Bizon actually outclasses the MP5, but only by a very minor amount. I don't think it's going to be enough to really warrant going with this weapon for range because a lot of you aren't going to notice that subtle difference. The Bizon aim down sights times in milliseconds are as follows. The base weapon is 233. Both the steel and polygonal barrels are 250, which is only a minor increase, and the aluminum barrel will drop it down to 200 milliseconds. All of these are actually pretty fast in my opinion, so I was very happy with the aim down sights time on the Bizon, but there are some more attachments you can put on here as well. The Corvus stock, interestingly, drops it down to 183 milliseconds, and this is a very interesting attachment because it also increases your aim walking speed and movement speed and all these other sort of nice things about the weapon. Your close quarters combat stock, which you would think would be the fastest, is not as effective as the Corvus or no stock or anything. Tac laser's 200, and the stippled grip tape doesn't really seem to have any effect on your aim down sights time, which I am more than surprised by, and oddly I've got that in 2 Russian weapons in a row. Now the sprint out times on this weapon are admittedly weird, so bear with me on this one. I tested the base sprint out time, and for whatever reason I kept getting 116 milliseconds. However, when I put any attachment on this weapon that changed the sprint out time, like the stippled tape or the 5 milliwatt laser, it actually seemed to make it slower at 150 milliseconds, which in and of itself is still fast. So my assumption is either one, I'm stupid, which I don't think that's true. I'm sure 1,000 of you in the comments will say that though. I think that sprint out times may be bugged on this weapon, and I think that the stipple grip is not very useful as well because it doesn't really seem to affect anything, kind of like it did with the Odin, which is unusual because the stippled usually one of like my go-to attachments. And the sort of summary at the end of this, why all this is important, is that it doesn't take many attachments to make the Bizon handle much faster. There's a lot of attachments that can improve your aim down sights time, they can improve your walking speed with the Corvus, which I absolutely love, and that you don't really need any attachments to already have an awesome sprint out time, so your hip fire is going to be top tier, which means it's a very fast handling weapon. If you've got great situational awareness, this speed can help you lock onto targets and be a John Wick style killer, and nothing will help your situational awareness like a pair of Astro A40 headsets. When the enemies yell and scream and do callouts, if you're wearing a nice pair of Astro A40s, or even A10s for that matter, you'll know exactly where they are, which is why I wanted to show you this skit today to highlight how it feels playing Modern Warfare sometimes.
Enemy in the kitchen! Let's go for it.
So if you'd like to purchase a pair of Astro A40s, there's a 5% off link down there below in the description, which if you click on, it'll get you 5% off anything in the entire store. And if you don't plan on buying anything, you could also just click the link to make me look like a fantastic sponsor. So let's move on to the other part of the episode. The Bizon has relatively low recoil and is easy to control. The only downside is that it wobbles a little bit left and to the right, kind of like President Obama. You can't really figure out which side he's going to really lay on. He's a very conservative Democrat, but it's not really high vertical. It's not the worst to control. It's a lot like the MP5. As long as you keep the vertical under control, the left and right will cross back over and most of the shots will hit. The difficulty is it's just not predictable, so you can't really pull it down. It's just a little bit wonky, but I don't think that many of you are going to have issues with the recoil on the Bizon. The iron sights are great in theory. Like when I look at these and when I think about playing with them, it's like, oh, this is great. I'm not going to need optics. This is close quarters gun. It's good iron sights, but I can't use them to save my life. For whatever reason, maybe it's the muzzle flash, maybe I'm just a potato at Call of Duty, maybe I'm old and washed and I need to retire, but I cannot get anything good going on with these iron sights. However, when I put a red dot sight on this weapon, it just feels like a laser. And this is an entirely subjective thing, I'm aware, but I would make the same recommendation to you that a dot sight is worth it. Magazine size is awesome. You have a 64 round magazine in a submachine gun, which is bigger even than the P90, and this can be increased up to 84 with the helical mags if you're a lunatic. Now the helical mags will slow down your reload and aim down sights time and movement speed and all this kind of stuff. For 20 more bullets, I don't think it's worth it at all. I think having a 64 round magazine to your submachine gun is plenty, and if it takes you more than 64 bullets to kill your enemies, and especially since your ammo supply is going to be like 180 something, you've got problems that I can't help you with these guides. The reload times on the Bizon are actually pretty fast. The full reload is 1.34 seconds and the empty reload is 1.45 seconds, which isn't bad at all. There are some, it's like really middle of the pack. There are SMGs that'll reload faster and slower, but given the just sort of massive magazine you have and the relatively few shots to kill that it'll take for an SMG, that's pretty good. You shouldn't have to reload this a whole lot, which I'm very, very happy about. I initially overlooked the Bizon just because the MP5 outclasses it in terms of time to kill. And it's kind of sad because the MP5 doesn't like dominate the Bizon in terms of time to kill. It's just like a little bit better. However, I think the Bizon has a lot to offer. You've got a giant magazine, you've got a debatably better, if not different, recoil pattern, you've got incredibly fast handling, you've got slightly better range, and again, the magazine, which is awesome. So especially in casual matches where time to kill isn't king, this gun's going to be good. Now, if you're playing on like CDL and you're doing competitive and like 2v2 wager matches or whatever in the world, the Bizon is going to lose to the MP5 in most raw time to kill battles. But in normal, regular pub matches where you need a bigger magazine and don't need to be fiddling reloading your MP5 all the time, where you need a little bit more range, where you need a little bit faster sprint out, or you need a little something different, the Bizon can go a very long way and be an incredibly good weapon and be incredibly useful to you in this game. So I would recommend it. And I think that the Bizon is 100% worth your time to level up and master. It's great for ground war too. It's one of the few SMGs that I'd really recommend for ground war. And the reasons are really simple. It's got decent range, it's got low recoil, and you've got a gigantic magazine. But when you're playing ground war, really what you're looking to do is either screw around with vehicles, snipe, or try to go on massive like kill streak tears that are too hard to do in core matches because people are actually paying attention instead of just sniping and flying vehicles. But you need a lot of ammo to do that. So having that at your disposal is great. And I'm going to make a recommendation for the Bizon class that worked the absolute best for me. I like putting 1x optics on this weapon. I think they're fantastic. Any kind of red dot, if it's the Viper sight, if it's the monocle sight, if it's the mini sight, whatever floats your boat, it'll be fine. Monolithic suppressor adds range and it keeps me off the mini-map. It slows down my ADS, which kind of sucks. It's not ideal. The Corvus stock, that's the best attachment for this weapon. Immediately put it, just the moment you unlock it, put that on there. It makes your aim down sights faster. It makes your movement speed faster. It makes your aim walking speed faster, like your strafing. There's basically no downside to this one other than I think it hurts aiming stability, but who cares when you're going to be relatively close with the SMG. I like the aluminum barrel, which is the shorter barrel that makes you ADS a little bit faster, and it doesn't have any significant downsides on range or recoil. And after this, I'm usually pretty much good to go. You can add a gun perk if you want, like fully loaded or recon if you're going for long range, or something like sleight of hand. FMJ I don't really care for. If you don't like gun perks or feel that you don't need them, there's nothing wrong with adding a commando grip or a ranger grip or something that'll tighten up your recoil a little bit, but I tend not to add those because they'll slow down aim down sights time. And this class is great. I went on many a tears with this class on stream and had a fantastic time. So I hope that you use it, and I hope you have a fantastic time as well. Guys, that is all for this in-depth episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. And if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, or buy an Astro headset. Drifter out.